from pathology. So today's lecture is the continuation of the bone tumors, which we have some part of the bone tumors we already done yesterday, and today the rest of the bone tumors which we are covering today in the today's lecture. Previously yesterday we we were doing uh, chondroid bone tumors, and today we are starting from the osteogenic bone tumors. So if you guys remember the classification of the bone tumors which we was done yesterday, the larger groups for the bone tumors are chondroid, it's cartilaginous tumors, then osteogenic tumors, then there are lymphoid tumors, hematopoietic tumors, vascular, then the fibrohistiocytic tumors. Again, there are some miscellaneous tumors, which includes the aneurysmal bone cyst, and there are giant cell tumors. And there are metastases, which are secondary. So today's lecture starts from the osteogenic tumor. So first, we are doing the benign one, which is the osteoid osteoma. Osteoid osteoma is basically benign tumor of bone. It's a small benign tumor, and the prominent feature for this tumor is the pain. And pain, usually this tumor has nidus, which is less than 1.5 centimeter, and usually this tumor affects children and young adults and adolescents, and male to female ratio is 3:1. So the most prominent and sites of involvement for this tumor is the long bones, especially, which is femur and tibia in 50% of the cases, and other than that, it can affect any bone of the body. The most striking clinical feature for this tumor is the pain, which is worse at night, and it is relieved by a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which is the classic presentation or classic sign for this tumor. So juxta-articular tumors with arthritis or joint dysfunction. Then radiology for this tumor is it has nidus, which is the radiolucent or ossified area in bone surrounded by radiolucent halo, and this nidus is usually less than 1.5 or 1 centimeter. And again, there is another bone tumor, benign bone tumor, which is the osteoblastoma, which also have nidus, but usually it has larger niduses more than 1 centimeter. So on gross description, this tumor, these tumors are small circumscribed nidus with surrounding sclerosis. And on microscopy, these are circumscribed tumor, and they have anastomoting regular trabeculae or solid sclerotic bone with variable mineralization. Again, the tumors are the tumors which containing bone is rimmed by a single layer of osteoblast and osteoclast. They have loose fibrovascular stroma, and they are surrounded by thick sclerotic bone. This is the gross appearance of the tumor. You see the normal native bone, and there is a tumor which is circumscribed tumor and little bit brown color because of the hemorrhages. Again, another picture for this tumor is the well circumscribed tumor, and this brownish discoloration is because of the lot of vasculature present in this tumor. Here you see the morphology or microscopic features of the osteoid osteoma. This is a mature sclerotic bone. These are the mature bone trabeculae, which are sclerotic, and they are surrounded by these cells are the osteoblast, which are surrounds the sclerotic bone trabeculae, and in between these trabeculae, there is fibrovascular and spondyloid stroma. The stroma contain a lot of vessels. Like here, this one is vessel, this one has vessel, this one is vessel, and again there is a spondyloid and fibrous stroma. Another picture for the osteoid osteoma, sclerotic bone trabeculae, which are surrounded by osteoblast, and there is presence of osteoclast. These multinucleated giant cells are the osteoclast, which are the normal bone resorptive cells. And again, osteoblast, which are again normal bone cells, which are forming the bone. So osteoblasts are bone forming cells, and osteoclast are bone resorptive cells, and these are the normal cells which normally present in the normal bones. So again, there is sclerotic bone, mature bone trabeculae surrounded by osteoblast and osteoclast, and there is in between these trabeculae, there is fibrovascular stroma, the spindle cells and the vessels. Again, another picture of the uh, osteoid osteoma. There is presence of inflammatory cell infiltrate at the periphery. So another bone tumor is the osteoblastoma. Again, it's a benign, but sometimes it behave aggressively, and sometimes it behave as a borderline tumor, and sometimes it may metastasize. So this is the benign bone forming tumor. Uh, Again, it is comprising of anastomosing trabeculae of osteoid and woven bone rimmed by osteoblast. Uh, Sites, it has wide skeletal distribution. Uh, 1/3 of the tumors are present in the sacrum or spine. And again, pain is the classic and striking feature for this tumor, but it is not as intense as osteoid osteoma, and it is not relieved by non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. The difference between the pain of the osteoblastoma and osteoid osteoma is in osteoblastoma, the pain is not as intense, and it is not relieved by non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So rarely in osteoblastoma, patient presents with fever, weight loss, generalized periostitis, and radiology is helpful in the diagnosis. It's a demarcated bone tumors with intralesional ossifications, and there is non-destructive growth, and some have central nidus or nidi. On gross description, the bone is gritty red fragments of osteoblastoma in multiple curatings. And if the tumor is intact, it is well demarcated with scalloped edges. Scalloped means it is punched out or punched out spaces. It is often hemorrhagic because of the lot of vasculature, and there is nidi, which may be one, which may be more than one. On microscopy, there is anastomotic trabeculae of the osteoid and woven bones, and there is activated osteoblast and osteoclast. In between the bone trabeculae, there is loose fibrovascular stroma. There may be hemorrhages. There may be secondary aneurysmal bone cyst. There may be and secondary aneurysmal bone cyst formation, and it is not infiltrative because of the benign nature. It does not permeate to the adjacent host trabecular bone. So here we see the picture of the osteoblastoma. You see the fairly demarcated lesion and little bit brownish discoloration of the tumor because of the hemorrhages. Again, another picture. You can demarcate the tumor from the rest of the bone. Here you see a sharp demarcation between the tumor. This one is the tumor, and this is the rest of the normal bone. Again, microscopy, mature trabeculae, bone trabeculae with presence of osteoclast, and again they are rimmed by osteoblast. These are the osteoblast, and there is lot of vasculature. These all reddish areas represent the vessels, like this one, this one, this one. There is lot of vasculature and the fibrous stroma. Again, another picture for the osteoblastoma. There is a sclerotic bone trabeculae, and you can see the osteoblasts, which are these cells which lines the trabeculae, and there is presence of osteoclast and fibrous stroma. Again, these are the osteoclast, these are the osteoblast, and there is, this one is the fibrovascular stroma and mature bone trabeculae. These are basically the cells present in the bone are the osteocytes, which are the mature osteoblast. Again, you can see here is the osteocytes, which are present in between the inside the bone trabeculae. So the next one is the osteosarcoma. It's a malignant bone tumor which synthesize the bone in the tumor, which is the malignant one. So why we called it malignant? Because there is the tumor cells directly synthesize the bone without formation of cartilage. So osteosarcoma is the most common primary malignant solid tumor of bone other than plasma cell myeloma, which is actually the most common tumor of the primary tumor of the bone, but it is not solid. So when we talk about the solid tumors of the bone, the osteosarcoma is the most common tumor, and when we talk about the in general the bone tumors, then multiple myeloma or plasma cell myeloma is the most common tumor of the bone. Okay, so there are many types of osteosarcomas that we differ on the basis of tumor location and grade. 90%, more than 90% of the osteosarcomas are conventional high-grade intramedullary osteosarcomas. So bone is necessary for the diagnosis of the osteosarcoma. If there is no bone formation, then there is no osteosarcoma. So most of the cases occurs in children in osteosarcoma. There are multiple types of osteosarcoma. Primary osteosarcoma, secondary osteosarcoma, which are which are arising in the background of Paget's disease, or in the if patient has history of radiation exposure. Then there is secondary osteosarcoma, and then the primary osteosarcoma, and there is common morphological subtypes. There's osteoblastic osteosarcoma, parosteal osteosarcoma, periosteal, and extraskeletal osteosarcoma. Extraskeletal osteosarcomas are the osteosarcomas which are arising in the soft tissue, not in the bone. So on radiology, it is invasive, destructive intraosseous mass mixed with lytic and blastic component, then periosteal reaction, which is sunburst pattern or Codman triangle. Sites which usually involve in osteosarcomas are osteosarcoma may arise in any bone. Most commonly, osteosarcomas are arising in the long bones of the extremities near the most proliferative growth plate, like distal femur, proximal tibia, proximal humerus. 90% of the osteosarcomas are metaphyseal, and 9% of are diphyseal. 1% epiphyseal. In older patients, usually the jaw and pelvis and spine are involved. There are multifocal osteosarcomas which are also occurring in the setting of Paget's disease of bone. Then there is gross description for the osteosarcomas. For intramedullary, usually there is a metaphyseal epicenter with cortical permeation and a soft tissue component that raises the periosteum, which causes the periosteal reaction. Then there is gritty and mineralized cut surface, may have cartilaginous areas. Microscopy, there is intramedullary permeative growth, neoplastic cells exhibiting marked atypia, hyperchromatic pleomorphic nuclei. There is malignant bone formation, and for the malignant bone formation, which is necessary for the diagnosis for osteosarcoma, and there is no minimum quantity for the bone formation is necessary. If you find out only traces of malignant bone, there is again the diagnosis of osteosarcoma was made. If there is lot of bone, malignant bone, then again it is osteosarcoma. So it's not necessary the quantity of bone, but the important thing is that there is the presence of malignant bone is necessary for the diagnosis of osteosarcoma. So most common malignant bone formation patterns are there is filigree less like disorganized woven bone, uh, which is associated with the neoplastic cells. And sometimes there are broad sheets of malignant bone. So here you see the gross picture of the osteosarcoma. You see this is the native bone. There is the shaft of the long bone, and here on the head side, you see this is the tumor, and there is no demarcation for the tumor. Again, this hole is the tumor, which involving the head of the long bone. And there is the microscopic picture of for the osteosarcoma. This pink areas represents the malignant bone formation. So there is no in between cartilaginous areas or cartilage, mature cartilage. So these neoplastic cells are directly forming this malignant bone. Again, in some types of osteosarcomas, you can also find cartilaginous areas, but again, it is malignant cartilage, and this is the chondroblastic variant of osteosarcoma. So this pattern is filigree type pattern. You see, like you see that there is a lot of fungal hyphae. So filigree like pattern is the delicate branching areas which represents the bone. This is the malignant bone. Again, this is another picture for the osteosarcoma. There is sheets of neoplastic cells, and in between there is malignant bone. This one is the bone, this one is bone, this one is bone. This is represents the malignant bone formation by neoplastic cells. Again, another picture for the osteosarcoma. This is the bone which is interpersed between the neoplastic cells of the osteosarcoma. This is sort of some high-grade type of osteosarcoma. There is pleomorphic hyperchromatic nuclei, and there is in between bone formation. This pinkish areas represents the pinkish areas which has no cell, but still they have neoplastic cells at the periphery. This represents the malignant bone formation. So other than that, there is so for the if we discuss the differential diagnosis for the osteosarcoma, it's the top differential is the chondrosarcoma. In older age group, then there is dedifferentiated chondrosarcoma. There is Ewing sarcoma. So there is another variant of osteosarcoma which is small cell variant. This may mimic with the Ewing sarcoma. Then sometimes well differentiated forms of the osteosarcoma are confusing with fibrous dysplasia. So there is in the differential in the osteosarcoma is the chondrosarcoma, Ewing sarcoma, and fibrous dysplasia. So another tumor of the bone is the fibrogenic tumors. Group of tumors is fibrogenic tumors, in which we discuss the desmoplastic fibroma of bone, which is the rare benign/borderline tumor. It may behave in benign fashion, it may behave in borderline fashion. 75% of the tumors are occurring in the younger age group, less than 30 years. So sites which involves in the desmoplastic fibroma is the metaphysis of long bones, then mandible, then pelvis. On radiology, there is a lytic honeycombed soap bubble appearance of tumor which are occurring at the metaphysis of the bones. बर्दाश्त ही करते ना इनकी शोर और सच में but still I can hear some of the voices. So is there any problem? Okay. So I can hear the traffic sounds. Okay. Okay. So so on the radiology, these are the lytic honeycombed soap bubble appearance of the lesion. They are metaphyseal lesions, and sometimes there are cortical thickening with soft tissue extension. So treatment for these tumors are wide local excision. Sometimes there is local recurrences for the tumors. So on gross description, these are white, gray, fibrous, rubbery masses. On microscopy, they are bland fibroblasts separated by abundant collagen, and there are thin-walled vascular channels. There is no necrosis, no pleomorphism, ATP, or mitotic activity. So here you see the gross picture for the desmoplastic fibroma. Here is the native bone, and here is the yellowish stained pale tumor within the uh, bone. And if you recognize, this is the mostly they are arising from the metaphyseal area. And here, this bone is the native bone, which is the reminiscent of the host bone, and there is basically the tumor which have fascicles of spindle cells. And here, this pinkish areas represents the abundant collagen and fibrous stroma. Again, another picture. The spindle cells have oval to elongated. This one is the elongated nuclei. These are the oval nuclei. So in combination, we called it, they are the spindeloid cells with abundant eosinophilic cytoplasm and the collagenized stroma. Here you can see the mitosis within the tumor, but still presence of one or two mitosis does not indicate the malignancy. So if we remember the soft tissue counterpart, so this desmoplastic fibroma is again the same morphology and same cell appearances as that of the fibromatosis of the soft tissue. So the next category is the for the fibrogenic tumors is the fibrosarcoma. Fibrosarcomas are the malignant tumors of the soft tissue and bone. Although it is very rare in bone, again, it is also very rare in soft tissue. So usually these are occurring in 40 years or older age group, no gender preferences. And sometimes that is secondary to infarct or Paget's disease or radiation. Occasionally they are multicentric, but metastatic sarcomatoid carcinoma is more likely. When we see this type of fibrosarcoma type morphology, also we also exclude the possibility of metastatic sarcomatoid carcinoma. Before the diagnosis of fibrosarcoma made, we also exclude the metastasis. Then radiology for the fibrosarcoma, these are the osteolytic soap bubble appearance of the lesion. They are invasive or sometimes they have well-defined margins. On gross description, there is fish flesh appearance of the sarcomas. And on microscopy, there is a striking pattern for the fibrosarcoma is the herringbone pattern of the spindle cells with variable anaplasia. So there is no malignant osteoid. If we see the malignant osteoid in this tumor, then we coded this tumor as osteosarcoma. So this pattern is herringbone pattern, which we read already in the previous slide. And here you see the fish flesh-like appearance, little bit whitish and shiny lesion with irregular margins here. This is the tumor. And again, you see the whitish tumor. And here you see the spindle cell lesion, which have herringbone, these vague whorls called it the herringbone pattern. Spindle cells, sorry, this. So a spindle cell lying in fascicles along with fibrous and collagenized stroma, and there is pleomorphism. So if we found the malignant osteoid implant with these cells, then this tumor becomes the osteosarcoma, not the fibrosarcoma. So then another category is the Ewing sarcoma, which is the undifferentiated or poorly differentiated small round cell tumors, or sometimes they are spindled. Usually it's a common tumor of the pediatric age group. So it's commonly occurring in the children's. It may occur in bone, it may occur in soft tissue. Okay, so ages for the Ewing sarcoma is the 5 to 25 years of age. Uh, So PNET, we called it PNET because the other name for the Ewing sarcoma is the peripheral primitive neuroectodermal tumor. Uh, it's the second most common malignant bone tumor in the children's, other than osteosarcoma and solid tumors. So sites for the Ewing sarcoma is the pelvis, distal femur, proximal tibia, femoral diaphysis, and proximal humerus, and the 50% of the tumors are found in the diaphysis of the long bones. So for the diagnosis, for the definitive diagnosis, it is based on the histology, immunohistochemistry, and molecular pathology. On radiology, there is little bit helping features. On plain film and CT scan, it is permeative, laminated, onion skin type appearance, periosteal reaction, and sclerosis in 40% of the patient. On MRI, there is low to intermediate signals and sometimes heterogeneously high signals, which may see hair ends, low signal striation on MRI. Either it's T1 and T2 signals. So grossly, it is white, fleshy, ill-defined tumor with extensive involvement of the medulla and cortex with periosteal elevation. Sometimes there is necrosis or resembles pus. Sometimes on radiology, the Ewing sarcoma may mimic with the findings of the osteomyelitis. So on microscopy, there is sheets of small rounded cells with stippled chromatin. They are uniform cells and a little bit amount of cytoplasm. So on low power appearance, the cells appears blue. So there is indistinct cell membranes. You see that gross appearance of the Ewing sarcoma. This is infiltrative lesion, pale, white, fleshy lesion in the head of the long bone. Again, there is tumor, and you see the normal bone is destroyed and this hole is tumor. You cannot identify the rim of the normal bone. Like here is the presence of normal bone, but here is not. So on microscopy or morphology, you see the sheets of small rounded cells with indistinct cell borders, and there is usually you see most of the nuclei, but the little bit of cytoplasm. These spaces we called it the rosette formation, which is the striking feature for the neuroendocrine tumors. You see these type of rosette formation in Ewing sarcoma, in ganglioneuroma, and sometimes in some brain tumors like ependymoma. You see the rosette formation, but again the new rosette formation is the striking feature for the neural lesions. So there is some prognostic features for the Ewing sarcoma. They are the age, site, size, and stage. So if the patient is less than 10 years of age, If the patient is less than 10 years of age, it has a unfavorable prognosis. And if we see for look for the site, so there are some sites which have favorable prognosis, like distal extremity, proximal extremity, then unfavorable prognosis for the pelvis. Then size, if the tumor is less than 8 centimeter in greatest diameter, then it has a favorable prognosis. And if it's equal to 8 or more than 8 centimeter in greatest dimension, then it has an unfavorable prognosis. Then again, if the tumor is non-metastatic tumor, then it has a favorable prognosis. And if the tumor is a Ewing sarcoma, is a metastatic one, then it has a unfavorable prognosis. Then there is necrosis, which predicts the long-term outcomes for the excised specimens. Then there is diagnosis of the osteosarcoma is not alone made on the morphology or histological feature. They are combination of features like morphology, include along with immunohistochemistry, in which the immunohistochemical stain CD99 is positive, FLI1 is positive, although it's mesenchymal neuroectodermal origin, but again all vimentin is positive. And sometimes epithelial markers, which are the cytokeratin, sometimes they are positive in the Ewing sarcoma. And again, there is molecular studies which are very important for the diagnosis of Ewing sarcoma. There is involvement of the EWSR gene. So this gene identification is, so the most common fusion is the EWSR1 and FLI1 gene. So these fusion genes are found in 90 to 95% of the patients. For the definitive diagnosis of Ewing sarcoma, you also need the molecular studies, which are the gene fusion studies, EWSR1 and FLI1 gene, which are very much diagnostic of the Ewing sarcoma. So the next common tumor is which commonly seen in our settings is the giant cell tumor. Is a benign but locally aggressive tumor of the bone. Usually it is occurring in 20 to 45 years of age. Below 20 years, this type of morphology we can put in the aneurysmal bone cyst. So the common sites for the involvement of giant cell tumor is the epiphysis and adjacent metaphysis of the long bones. It could be femur, proximal tibia, distal radius, and proximal humerus. Other bones which are involving is the sacrum, vertebrae, skull base may be involved, but frequently in the giant cell tumor, the long bones are involved. And the epiphysis and adjacent metaphysis is involved. Okay. So on radiology, it is a lobulated expansile osteolytic lesion. Sometimes in 5 to 10% of patients, pathological fractures are happening. On gross description, it is a well-defined borders, maybe expansile lesion with cortical thinning or soft tissue extension. On microscopy, there is numerous uniformly distributed giant cells throughout the tumor. And there is spindle and oval and mononuclear cells also present in the background. So here you see the gross appearance of the giant cell tumor. This is a well-defined bordered tumor here in the condyle or proximal or sometimes distal end of the long bone. And here you see the morphological picture of the giant cell tumor. There are multinucleated osteoclastic germ cells, and then the background there is mononuclear spindle stroma. Another picture for the giant cell tumor. These giant cells are uniformly distributed throughout the tumor. If they are scattered or randomly distributed throughout the tumor, then it could be aneurysmal bone cell. This is not then the giant cell tumor. Okay, so this is the multinucleated giant cell. You see here, they are uniformly, and there in the background is the mononuclear cells, which represents the giant cell tumor morphology. Then there is hematopoietic tumors, which are the plasma cell neoplasms, which is the lytic bone lesions. On radiology, there is evidence of one or more sites of the osteolytic fish flesh, hemorrhagic tissue, and on microscopy, there are sheets and nodules of plasma cells. Prominent osteoclastic activity may be seen. So here you see the hemorrhagic well-defined tumor present in the bone, and you see the sheets of plasma cells. This is the plasma cells eccentrically placed nuclei. Again, this is very good morphology of plasma cells eccentrically placed nuclei, and there's abundant cytoplasm, and there this pale area represents the Golgi halo in the plasma cells. There is a lot of plasma cells in the tumor. Again, uh, the another differential is the lymphoma. In lymphoma is also uh, you can see in the bone, but usually we can see the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. This is the represents the diffuse large B-cell lymphoma and of the bone. You see the large lymphoid cells with little bit indented or angulated nuclei like this one, and there is a moderate amount of cytoplasm. And usually there are multiple types of lymphomas which we see in the bone, like diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. This is the high-grade one. Then Burkitt's, then ALL, acute lymphoblastic lymphoma. These are the high-grade lymphomas. And then the mantle cell lymphoma, follicular lymphoma, then small lymphocytic lymphoma are the low-grade lymphomas which may occur in the bone. And there are Hodgkin's lymphoma, but usually very rare presentation of the Hodgkin lymphoma is occurring in the bone. Usually they are in the lymph nodes. Then vascular tumors for the bone, they are this one is the hemangioma, the benign counterpart of the vascular tumor, and this one is the angiosarcoma, which is the malignant tumor of the malignant vascular tumor. So first we go through the benign counterpart, which is the hemangioma. It's the most common vascular tumors of bone, and usually they are occurring between the ages of 20 and 50 years. No gender preferences. And basically these are the vascular malformations, not the neoplasms, not the true neoplasms. Multiple bony hemangiomas are more commonly in children associated with cutaneous and soft tissue and visceral hemangiomas. Then the radiology, they have sunburst appearance due to the trabecular bone, and usually they are present in the skull and spine, not in the long bones. There is on gross, they have elevation of the periosteum. Then they have on microscopy, they are multiple vascular channels lined by flat endothelial cells and filled with these red blood cells. And again, there is a little bit spindeloid stroma. Then the malignant counterpart of the vascular tumor is the angiosarcoma. They have it is the rare multicentric tumor of the bone. 1/3 are multifocal, and they affect the long tubular bones, but any bone may be affected. Okay. So on gross description, they are red and hemorrhagic. On microscopy, they have obvious atypia of the nuclei. Like you see here, these cells which are lined by vessels are showing marked atypia. Here you see the presence of mitosis. And if you compare with this one, these are the flat, bland cells line the vessel wall. And there is anastomotic vascular channels in the malignant one, which is the osteosarcoma, angiosarcoma. And there may be necrosis, there may be brisk mitotic activity, there may be hemorrhages, they may contain giant cells. So other category is the smooth muscle tumors in the bone. This one is the benign one, which is the leiomyoma, and the malignant one is the leiomyosarcoma. You see the so here you see the bland spindle cells present in the fascicles. No atypia, no mitosis, no pleomorphism. Here you see the atypical mitosis, which this mitosis basically is the quadripolar mitosis. A lot of atypia in the nuclei, which represents the malignancy. Again, these are rare in the bone. They are more common in the female genital tract, like in uterus and in the soft tissues. Then edmentinoma. Edmentinoma is the bone tumor, rare malignant primary bone tumor of the uncertain histogenesis. So 90% of cases are localized, and median third of the diaphysis of the tibia. On radiology, it's a single or multiple variable sized lytic lesions with sclerotic margins. It's a biphasic tumor, which is fibroosseous type tumor, and gross description, it is a yellow and gray, grayish white or fleshy or firm cut surface. Microscopically, it is a biphasic tumor characterized by epithelial and osteofibrous components that may be intermingled with each other. So there are classic edmentinomas. These are the morphological subtypes. They may be osteofibrous dysplasia like edmentinoma and then the differentiated edmentinoma. Here you see the gross picture of the edmentinoma. You see the yellowish tumor involving the bone, and there is lift of periosteum. You see this is the normal bone, and here you see the lift of the periosteum. And here you see the morphology of the edmentinoma, which is the biphasic tumor. This spindle mesenchymal type stroma, again mixed with the epithelial type component. These nest, and these cells represent the epithelial component. Again, another picture. These are the epithelial nest, which have rounded hyperchromatic nuclei mixed with fibrous stroma. Then aneurysmal bone cyst is the most common cyst of the bone. It's a benign, locally destructive, multiloculated blood-filled cystic lesions. These other one cysts are the simple bone cyst of the bone. Aneurysmal bone cyst may be primary, may be associated with some other bone tumors. Sites usually metaphyseal region of the long tubular bones, most commonly tibia, femur, and humerus, and sometimes it is present in the vertebrae. Usually ABC aneurysmal bones we see in small bones, and when it is present in the long bones, it may be usually single or may be associated with other bone lesions. On X-ray, it's an eccentric and radiolucent lesion because of the presence of the blood with expansile remodeling involving the metaphysis of long bones. On gross description, it is spongy, multiloculated hemorrhagic lesion. On microscopy, they are blood-filled cystic spaces separated by fibroblast, giant cells, and woven bone. There may be basophilic eosinophil material or calcified material. Here you see the gross picture of the aneurysmal bones. You see the multiple cysts filled with blood. And here you see the microscopy. These are the spindled stroma, and these are the blood-filled cystic spaces, which represents the aneurysmal bone cysts. You see multinucleated giant cell, which we also see in giant cell tumor, but again, the distribution of the giant cell is random in aneurysmal bone cyst, and there are a lot of vasculature, large cystic spaces filled with blood. And in giant cell tumor, the giant cells are uniformly distributed. The basic difference between the giant cell and the aneurysmal bone cyst, sometimes they are very mimicking on radiology, but on morphology, the basic difference is the giant cells, which is randomly distributed in the aneurysmal bone cyst, and in giant cell tumor, it is uniformly distributed. And in ABC, there is blood-filled cystic spaces. Giant cell, there is no blood-filled cystic spaces. And age is important. ABC is usually occurring below the age of 20, and giant cell tumor is usually occurring above the age of 20. So another bone tumor is the chordoma. Chordoma is the malignant tumor with notochordal differentiation. It typically involves the clivus and sacrococcygeal bone and vertebrae. And on sacrococcygeal bone and vertebrae, the differential for the chordoma is the metastatic tumor, which is likely renal, and the myxopapillary ependymoma, which is the brain tumor. These are the most closest differential of the chordoma in sacrococcygeal bone and vertebrae. metastatic bone tumor, and myxopapillary ependymoma. On gross description, they are expansile lobulated masses, usually permeates in the cortex and invades the adjacent soft tissue. On microscopy, there are epithelioid cells with abundant eosinophilic cytoplasm, bubbly cytoplasm, which are vacuolated appearance, and the typical word used for these cells are the ficelliferous cells. These are the chordomas. You see the tumor in the bone. This one, 10 tumor with areas of hemorrhage, and there are the large vacuolated epithelioid cells with bubbly cytoplasm. These bluish pinkish tinge appear, and these vacuolation giving the appearance of giving the cells bubbly appearance, and we called it ficelliferous cells. These vacuolated cells are the ficelliferous cells. This one is the ficelliferous cells appearances. The cells appearance of the ficelliferous. So these are the bluish background. Then these epithelioid cells, large plum cells, are the epithelioid cells. So this is the end of the lecture. This is the chordoma is the last one entity of this lecture, and this is the end of the bone tumors. We almost covering all the bone tumors which we previously done in the WHO classification of the bone tumors. So if there is any question. Okay, so if there is any question regarding the bone tumors, you may ask. मैंने बोल दिया, मैंने अपना चैट बॉक्स भी खोला हुआ है. So, any question, please ask. Okay, then I leave the class. Okay, then, okay. So permeative means it has an infiltrative borders. Either it permeates in the periosteum or it permeates in the adjacent soft tissue. Basically, permeation means the infiltrative border. The tumor infiltrates the adjacent tissue. Either it could be soft tissue or the adjacent bone tissue. Okay. Any other question? Okay. If no question, then I'm leaving, and Allah Hafiz for the today.